can I get through the entire process on closing a deal? Can I talk to people and find equity? Can I find other partners that want to invest with me?
Welcome everyone to the Multifamily Deal Structuring Monday, where we will discuss about the apartment deal that our guests have closed. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified whenever a new episode is released. So our guest for today is Brian Kochenderfer. So Brian is the managing member of ARC Equity Group, a Chicago-based real estate investment firm specializing in acquiring and operating apartment properties in the Midwest. So Brian is a general and limited partner in over 950 apartment units with a total value of approximately $70 million. So he has 14 years of experience as a commercial real estate broker and has been involved in over 700 million in real estate transactions throughout his career, primarily in multifamily. At ARC, Brian leverages his investment and brokerage experience to oversee the firm's acquisition and operational strategy. Here's the episode. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the Multifamily Deal Structuring Monday, where we will discuss all about your first GP multifamily transaction or any of one of your early deals. Thank you for joining us here in the show.
Thanks, Jefferson. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, so I think let's start with if you can tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I am based in the Chicago area. I have been a multifamily broker out here for the last 14 years or so. And I started in the middle of 2007 doing some retail leasing, retail and office leasing for a while. Then I switched over to multifamily full time in 2010. Have been doing that since. And I started investing in a couple of passive deals in 2016 and started actively investing in 2019. And I picked up about 320 units so far in the last couple of years.
Okay, sounds good. Then I think you mentioned about you're in Chicago, in Illinois. Then yeah, how did you end up in I think in the commercial broker space or in the multifamily?
Yeah, I was actually working in the insurance industry before real estate, and I just didn't enjoy it. My day-to-day job, I was, an account manager. I was going into the sales side. I knew I was going to start making some pretty good money had I stuck with it. I just didn't want to be in that industry. Always had interest in real estate. I always wanted to start investing, and so I thought, what better way to not only make a good living, but learn how to invest, to be a broker, sell properties, learn about the different types of properties that you're selling, meet a bunch of people who are active in the space, and then eventually get into investing on my own.
Okay, that's good. Then yeah, any limiting belief that you have, and how were you able to overcome it and get to your first deal?
The first one was definitely harder. I guess, even though I'd been in the space for a long time and, I'd been a broker for probably 12 or 13 years by the time I acquired the first deal, it was still just like a whole new area jumping in and trying to talk to brokers in different states. And, I had a lot of experience in underwriting and deal transactions and whatnot, but never trying to acquire on my own. So always second guessing my own underwriting, even though I'd underwritten hundreds of properties before. And it was really just kind of, can I get through the entire process on closing a deal? Can I talk to people and find equity? Can I find other partners that want to invest with me? And fortunately, I've, over 8 deals invested in 3 different partnership structures. And all 3 partners that I have, they were all clients at one point who then became friends and then business partners. So,
Mhm.
just not being certain of myself early on, I think was something I had to get over, but I just kept pushing through it. And I talked to everybody that I could to tell them what I was doing and just wanted to see who was interested in working together.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. Then yeah, I think let's start talking about your first deal in multifamily. What's the source of this deal?
Sure. It was actually through a broker in Indianapolis. And the first property we bought was in Northwest Indiana, a little town called Chesterton. So it was about an hour outside of Chicago. And we found it through a broker that I'd been talking to in Northwest Indiana.
Okay. Then so the area is in Northwest Indiana. How many units was it?
That was 100 units.
100 units. Then what's the class of the that property?
So it's probably a C plus class property, borderline B, C, but probably more of a C plus property in the C area. Like I
Okay.
said, it's a smaller town in Northwest Indiana. So, it was 1970s build. So Nice complex though.
Okay. Yeah. Then what's the story of this property? Like any reason for selling by the seller?
So the seller had actually bought this property with a portfolio of three properties a couple years prior. And the prior seller, it was in a distressed situation. So the seller got a pretty good deal on all three properties. He, moderately rehabbed about 10 to 12% of the units in this property and did some of the CapEx work, but he did just enough of the units to show that you could raise rents by updating units some. And so we took it over with some CapEx work to do, and we wanted to remodel another 50 to 60 units over the first 12 to 18 months, which we just completed this past month, actually.
Oh, that's nice. Then so for this property, I guess you were able to get T12 and rent roll.
Yep, we were able to get a full rent roll, full T12. We did not have financials. He had only owned it for less than 2 years. So we didn't have any prior financials to that, but they were able to give us a monthly income and expense statement for the months that they had it.
Okay. Then yeah, when you were reviewing this T12 and rent roll, do you recall like anything that stands out or kind of either a red flag or just anything that stands out?
Well, it wasn't a red flag at the time, but now I know, when he first took it over, the prior owners weren't charging any kind of other income as far as, utility bill backs or putting in a rub system. And this owner had done that, and he started really improving the rent roll because of that. But what we found out after we closed it, it just wasn't sustainable. And because there wasn't a ton of rent comps in the area, it was hard to really determine if charging rubs was sustainable over the long term. And we realized pretty quickly that it was not. So we ended up having to drop the rub system. But, they filled up the rent roll very quickly. And it turns out they did not put great tenants in there. So we had quite a bit of turnover our first few months. And that was something that stood out to me that I'd pay more attention to now.
Okay. Yeah. I think that makes sense. And also, I think that's a good point for the viewers is make sure if you plan to, let's say, improve the income, adding other income through RAVs, make sure that particular area can support it or has already done it. Not like you're the first one who will be doing it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Then yeah, what was the original asking price on this property?
So they came out to the market unpriced, but they were targeting about 9.5 million on it. And they didn't get a lot of interest at first because that was significantly overpriced. Then they dropped their asking price to about 9 million, and we picked it up for 8.5.
8.5. Okay, that's nice. Then yeah, what was the economic occupancy or the physical occupancy of the property when you bought it?
So at the time, they were about 95 to 97% occupied, and most tenants were paying. Like I said, we quickly realized after we took over that they were just putting in anybody who would fill out an application in there just to beef up the occupancy. So we did have a lot of turnover at first, but lesson learned. But at the time, it was about 95 to 97%.
Okay. Then yeah, how's the financing breakdown looks like for this? So this one is I guess an agency loan.
Yeah, so this one we did the Fannie Mae acquisition rehab loan program. So we got a 75% loan to value on the purchase price, and then we escrowed an additional $1 million for a renovation budget. And we split that budget up about 2/3 went into the units and about a third went into CapEx for the property.
Okay. Then how much was the loan amount on this?
The loan amount was around 6.2 plus the $1 million renovation. So just over 7 million.
Okay,
Yep.
7. Yep.
Yeah.
Then how much interest were you able to get from that?
So this was in 2019. The rates were still above 4 at the time. We got about 4.2% rate. It's actually fixed over 15 years. We got a 5 years interest only. And what's nice about this is that we can take out a supplemental loan once we finish the rehab. We can do a supplemental loan to take out some initial equity back within the first 2 to 3 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then that's nice. Then yeah, what was the investor split? Like I guess this is a syndication or
no, we actually did this as a joint venture. So
joint venture. Okay.
Yep, I did this with a couple guys on my brokerage team, and then we had one of our clients who was most of the equity source. So we were going to try to raise money and syndicate it. He was the first one that we pitched it to, and he said he wanted to just be the main equity partner. So
nice.
we split it that way with him. So it was a joint venture.
Okay, that's good. Then yeah, I guess you mentioned about some of the business plan. Was there any other business plan on this? That,
Yeah, so the main things that we did was we updated the clubhouse and we added a fitness center in there, and we improved the exterior lighting. We had to do some work on the parking lot. We did all the common area hallways, new carpet and paint and vinyl flooring throughout all the hallways. And like I said, there were about 10 units that were updated when we went in there out of the 100, and we updated 60 more over the course of the first 12 or 13 months. And so we turned over quite a few units during that time and just did some minor exterior landscaping type projects, but most of the work was done on the units.
okay, that's good. Then yeah, I think let's skip the. But do you have like I know like it's a JV. Do you have like an anticipated like how much cash on cash average that you're targeting?
Yep, we should be at least 10% by year two. Year one, we didn't take any distributions really. We did a small
Yeah.
distribution early on, but with COVID, the rehab slowed down. We were right in the middle of rehab on a lot of units when COVID hit and everything shut down. So, but year two, we're projected to be between 10 and 11% cash on cash.
Okay. Yep. Then yeah, regarding the so we're going to the next segment of the show where we talk about the due diligence. What are the different due diligence that was done on this property?
So this particular property, we had all the mechanicals checked out, their individual HVAC units. So we had somebody come in, walk all units, give us a report on each of the HVAC system. We took an inventory of what was done in each unit. So we knew if units had new cabinets or old cabinets, what kind of flooring they had. So we knew what we would have to update when the units turned. We had somebody check out the roofs, the attics, anything exterior. One thing that we did not do that I would have done or that I have done since is we did not have the plumbing drained, the main lines inspected. So we've had a couple backup issues that had we had that, somebody look at the main drains of the plumbing, then we would have had the sellers take care of. But, like I said, lesson learned. I won't make that mistake again. And we've already on following properties been having the plumbing lines checked out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, then also all this clog up, is it like because of a collapsed sewer line, or is just like
One
another?
sewer line was collapsed. The property has 13 different buildings. So one sewer line was collapsed. A couple of them were just backed up that we just had to rot out, but we did have to replace one of them.
Okay, fine, that's good. Then yeah, let's go to the next segment. Oh yeah, I guess the capital raise you don't need, so it's the main, it's a JV. Then for the closing, how much was the closing cost, if you recall on this?
So we paid a 1% loan fee. With all the inspection and due diligence, I want to say it was probably 60,000 or so with the attorneys and everything. I'd have to go back and check, to be honest. But maybe half a point of the total deal size, maybe a little bit more, maybe 3/4 of a point. So probably 50, 60 grand total.
Okay, for the closing. Then how long did it take from LOI to closing on this?
Well, the LOI to contract took about 3 weeks of contract negotiations. But once we signed the contract, we had our loan application ready to go. So we went from contract to close in 60 days.
Oh,
So total LOI to closing just under 90 days, I would say.
okay, cool. Yeah, so we reached the end of this the show is where I asked all the guests all these final five sizzling questions.
Okay.
So yeah, the first question: any lessons learned that you want to share aside from the one that you already mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, do some due diligence on the front end. Like I said, get the sewer lines checked out. It doesn't cost much to have somebody come in and run a camera down there to see what kind of condition those are in. One thing I would have done a little bit differently as well is done a little bit more homework on if a rub system is sustainable in that particular area. Like I said, this is a little bit of a smaller town, not a lot of rent comps around, so it's tough to tell, but seeing how the seller improved the income so quick, that was a bit of a red flag, and we should have paid more attention to that on the front end.
Okay. Then the second question: any recommended books?
Yeah, I read quite a bit. I usually read 2 to 3 books a month, and right now I'm reading a book called The One Thing, and it really just focuses on having you concentrate on the most important thing to do each day and do that very consistently, and then that will just help grow your business more than anything else.
Okay. Then, yeah, the third one, any recommended podcast or YouTube channel that you're listening to and would
Uh,
recommend?
I don't watch a ton on YouTube, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts. So I have a few different real estate podcasts in my feed. Rod Cleef, I have Michael Blank's podcast, I have Joe Fairless. So I would say those are the three that I listen to the most. Old Capital as well. Whitney Sewell's a great one. So I have the 4 to 5 podcasts in my feed that I listen to on a regular basis.
Okay, all right, sounds good. And then I think for the viewers, I will put all those the podcasts, the books in the show notes.
Sure.
Then the fourth question. So this is the time to promote yourself. What's your acquisition criteria for multifamily?
Yes, right now we're looking at anything from 40 to say 200 units of ideally 1970s build or newer. Lately, I've really liked the A minus B class properties that are stabilized. We just acquired another one down in Indianapolis. It was already renovated. We put a great loan on it and able to cash on cash a very good amount year one. So I'm looking at some stabilized properties right now instead of the value add for the time being. But B class, 40 to 200 units, Midwest, primarily Indianapolis, Louisville, Cincinnati. That's the primary markets.
Okay, thanks. Then the last question is, what's the best way to contact you?
Through my website is the best way. It's arcequitygroup.com. And my email is Brian, Brian, at arcequitygroup.com.
Okay, yeah. I think I'll also put Brian's contact information in the show notes. Thanks, Brian, for being a guest, and appreciate all the advices and also the lessons learned that you share.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
All right, thanks.